Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. On this occasion, we are going to present our progress presentation for the research project titled The Role of YouTube Videos in Enhancing Senior High School Students' Listening Comprehension. But before we begin, we would like to express our gratitude to Mr. Yogo for giving us the opportunity to present our progress for our research. Before we moving into the explanation, let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Indah Syafitri with student number D1E023038, and I am here with my friends. The first is Anisa and Khasanah with student number D1E023010, and Bilqis Aulia Rizqina with student number D1E023031. In this presentation, we will explain the background of our study, the methods we have completed, the interim findings, the next challenge, and the next step for our research.
To begin our first part, we will be presented by Anisa. Anisa, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. So, here I would like to explain the introduction. The first one is background. So, listening is one of the most challenging skills for FL students, especially due to fast speech, varied accents, and limited vocabularies. Previous research shows that students face difficulties such as anxiety, pronunciation issues, speech rate, poor vocabulary or grammar mastery, and lack of concentration. And then many teachers use text-to-speech-based audio, but it lacks natural features such as stress, rhythm, intonation, which limits students' exposure to authentic English input. In the previous studies indicate that YouTube can enhance listening skill and motivation through authentic and engaging content. However, in a previous studies, there are some gaps. That is exciting multimedia-based listening studies have not focused especially on YouTube in Indonesian senior high school context, and the finding remain inconsistent, highlighting the need for a systematic review to determine its effectiveness in improving listening comprehension. And here, our problem statement of our research, the first one is, what role do YouTube videos play in overcoming student challenges in listening comprehension? And the second one is, how effective are YouTube video compared to other digital tools in improving senior high school student listening comprehension? And of course, based on this problem statement or research question, we have two objectives. The first one, to analyze the role of YouTube videos in helping senior high school students overcome challenges in listening comprehension, and then compare the effectiveness of YouTube video with other digital tools in improving student listening comprehension. Okay, the next is method. So for the research design, we use systematic literature review or SLR to synthesize empirical studies on YouTube and listening comprehension. For the database search, we use Google Scholar, ERIC, and Semantic Scholar. And then we use some keyword, for example, YouTube, listening comprehension, EFL, and senior high school. And for a screening procedure, we follow the Prisma framework. During the identification stage, articles were collected from multiple databases using the predefined keywords. In the screening stage, duplicate articles were removed, and the remaining titles and abstract were checked for relevance. In the eligibility stage, its articles full text was examined to ensure it met all inclusion criteria. Finally, in the inclusion stage, the articles that qualified were selected for detailed review and analysis. This step-by-step process ensured that only high quality and relevant studies were used in the SLR. And next one is data extraction. This we use author, year, context, method, participant, key findings. And then for the data analyze, thematic analyze to compare and synthesize results across studies. And here is the inclusion and exclusion for our research. The first one is inclusion criteria. We use research between 2015 and 2025, English articles, peer-reviewed, focus on YouTube for listening, and EFL high school students. And for the exclusion criteria, we didn't use pre-2015, non-English, non-peer-reviewed studies on other levels, for example, like university or elementary, and then the studies about not about YouTube and listening. So I think that's all. I will give it back to the moderator.
Thank you, Anisa, for the clear explanation. Next, I will continue the presentation by discussing our interim findings and the challenges identified in this research. First, let's take a look at the interim findings based on the 3 studies included in our systematic literature review. This table summarizes the key results from each of the reviewed articles. The first study, conducted by Sembiring and Katemba 2023, used educational YouTube videos as listening materials. The results showed a real improvement in students' listening scores, and the videos also increased their learning motivation. The second study by Komoria et al. 2021 compared YouTube videos with audio-only materials. They found that students who learned through YouTube performed significantly better in listening comprehension test, which indicates that YouTube provides richer learning input. Meanwhile, the third study by Setyawan et al. 2024 examined YouTube shorts. The short and dynamic format helped students maintain their attention and resulted in noticeable improvements in listening ability. It is also important to note that all 3 studies were published in Indonesian journals and focused specifically on Indonesian senior high school students. Even though they share the same national context, the findings consistently highlight similar advantages of using YouTube. From these results, we identified 3 semantic categories. The first theme is multimodal input. YouTube naturally provides visual and audio cues such as gestures, facial expressions, and contextual scenes that help students interpret fast or unfamiliar speech more easily. The second theme is authentic exposure. Because students can hear natural pronunciation, intonation, and real-life expression that are not usually present in a textbook recording. And the last one, or the third theme, is motivation and engagement. All studies reported that students were more focused, more interested, and less anxious when learning through YouTube context, especially short-form videos. Overall, the findings consistently show that YouTube support listening comprehension effectively by offering multimodal support, authentic language exposure, and higher learner motivation. Although the findings are positive, our review also revealed several challenges and limitations. First, the studies were conducted only for short periods of time, so the long-term impact of using YouTube to improve listening skills is still unknown. Second, all of the reviewed articles were published in Indonesian journals and focused solely on Indonesian high school learners, which means the findings may not be generalizable to other age groups or international context. Third, most of the studies used quantitative designs, which provides measurable results but do not capture students' deeper experiences or learning struggles. There are also potential internet and access issues. In many school settings, unstable connections or limited data packages may disrupt video-based learning. And lastly, the reviewed studies offered limited comparisons with other digital platforms, so we still do not have a clear picture of how YouTube performs relative to tools like TikTok, It Puzzles, or podcasts. These challenges indicate the need for more diverse, longer, and mixed method studies in the future. Okay, I think that's all for my part. Next, the following section will be presented by my friends Bilqis. So, please, the time is yours.
All right. Thank you, Aliya, for the opportunity. So, based on the challenges that have already explained by Aliya before, there are some next steps that we can do to overcome those challenges and to complete our research. The first one, expanding the database search and refining the keywords. To address the limited scope of previous studies, we plan to broaden our search by using more academic databases such as Scopus or Web of Science, and by refining our research keywords. This will help ensure that our review captures a wider range of research, including studies that may not have appeared in the initial search. A broader search increases the reliability and representativeness of the findings. And then the second one is including studies from more diverse learner groups. Since many of the reviewed studies involved only Indonesian high school students, we plan to include research from different educational levels, such as junior high school or university school, and from different countries. This step will help strengthen the generalizability of the SLR by showing whether the findings are consistent across different learner population and cultural context. And the next one, the third one is adding qualitative studies to enrich insights, because many existing studies lack qualitative perspectives from learners. We plan to include research that uses interviews, observations, reflection journals, or thematic analysis. Including qualitative studies can provide deeper insights into students' experiences, motivations, challenges, and perceptions, or information that cannot be captured through quantitative data alone. This also helps us explain why certain results occur, not just what the outcomes are. And next is comparing findings with other digital learning tools. To address the limited comparison with similar digital tools, we plan to analyze studies that compare the target tool with alternative platforms or methods. If such studies are limited, we will conduct a cross-study comparison within our SLR, examining how the tool performs relative to other digital approaches discussed in the literature. This comparison will help identify whether the tool offers unique advantages or shares similar patterns with other technologies. And then the last one, analyzing contextual factors such as internet access issues. Some studies mention potential internet or access problems, but the discussions are usually brief. Therefore, we plan to highlight contextual factors across the reviewed studies, such as connectivity, device availability, digital literacy, and school infrastructure. Understanding these factors is important because they influence how effectively a digital tool can be implemented in real classrooms. This analysis also helps explain variation in results across different settings. All right, next slide, please. All right, so here there are some references that we use to support and develop our research. All right, next slide, please. For the total references, there are more or less 7 references. I think that's all from me. I give it back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Bilqis, for the explanation. That concludes our group's progress presentation. We would like to apologize for any mistakes during our presentations. Thank you very much for your attention, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.